What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics show, streaming to you live on DSM Media's Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter channels. I'm your host, Dylan Davis. You can find me on Twitter at DylanJD98. And today I'm joined by friend of the show and ESPN's own Paul Hembekides. You guys may know him as Sneaky Hembo on ESPN's Get Up, but if you don't already, make sure to check him out on Twitter at Paul Hembo. My man, it's been a long time since I've talked to you. You're always busy, but you're particularly busy right now. Hembo just wrote a book, everybody, with Mike Greenberg. So tell us about it, where the people can find it, and what's going on, man.
Look at you plugging my product here. So
Yes,
if you're watching right now, you can see that. There you go. You can see Mike Greenberg's name in big yellow letters. You can see my name in small white letters beneath it. But you know what?
It's on there.
Cover credit nonetheless. So here's the idea in a nutshell. If you're a sports fan, you're going to love it. It's called Got Your Number. As you see, there's 100 chapters, 1 through 100. Greedy and I determined who owns every number in sports, 1 through 100. I co-wrote the thing. I researched the heck out of the thing. I've obviously had the chance to do lots of on-air and forward-facing stuff at the company lately, which is really cool. But my sort of meat and potatoes of my job and where I made my bones at ESPN is in the research department. And I would consider this really the crown jewel of my career in that sense. And so obviously, if you're listening or watching this show, you're a Philly fan. Philadelphia is well represented in the book. That I can assure you. And so it would mean the world to us if you bought it. It's called Got Your Number. You can find it anywhere you buy books. We're doing a signing up here in New Jersey and Ridgewood on Sunday, and I know some of you will be there too for that. So that's going to be super exciting. The first time I've ever done anything like this, and there's a lot that goes into it, but I appreciate you providing me the chance to plug the thing.
Yes, listen, man, I haven't cracked the book. I could not tell you how long, but for you, for Philly, I'll crack it open and I'll buy it for you. And
oh, wow.
You and Greeny, don't worry about it, man. But listen,
Tremendous.
On today's show, normally this show's coming with a twist today, because normally I'm the one asking the questions. I'm interviewing Hembo. Hembo brought some questions of his own to get you guys ready for this 2023 Philadelphia Phillies season and hopefully another run back to the World Series. So without a doubt, without further ado, excuse me, here is your host, Paul Hembekides.
A surreal moment and experience. Here's what I've done. My friend, I have compiled the 10 defining questions of the Phillies 2023 season. I'm going to ask you each and every one of them, for which I will receive your expert opinion and analysis.
Yeah.
I will then provide my commentary and see if we agree or disagree on many of these items. Either way, I think this is a pretty good compilation and a pretty good primer for a Philly season that we're obviously all super excited about. I have to start, however, on a bit of a downer.
Mm-hmm.
I got to start with Rhys Hoskins, beloved Philly, debuted in 2017. He has been the heartbeat of this team and this organization really for as long as he's been here. He's been here for way more bad days than good, and it was obviously an enormous it brought us enormous joy last year to see him perform in the postseason the way that he did. His Phillies career very likely ended on that spring training field when he shredded his knee, and he's going to miss the entire season. And so, Dylan, my question for you, the first defining question of the Phillies 2023 season is this. On a scale of 1 to 10, how big a blow is the Rhys Hoskins injury?
I mean, it's a 10 in terms of fandom and hurting the excitement level that I had to see this lineup and this team at full strength. But in terms of product, in terms of what you're going to get on the field, I'm leaning between a 6 and a 7. I'll go with a 6 here. I know it's not going to be easy to replace 30-plus home runs in the middle of this lineup. And you mentioned his leadership. He's been here through the good, the bad, and the ugly. So that's going to be missed in the clubhouse. There's two things here. I trust Rob Thompson enough to make the proper adjustments from game to game in his absence. And to me, listen, I know we're missing Bryce to start the season. This isn't Bryce missing the season. This isn't Trey. This isn't JT. This isn't Schwarber. This isn't Nola. This isn't Wheeler. So to me, this is like number 8 or 9 on the pain scale of what you're missing from this lineup, right? Derek Hall has shown to do what? Now, obviously, again, he's not going to hit 30 home runs. He's not going to play every day, but he can hit for power. He can fill a void. He can fill a need in the middle of this lineup. And whether you throw Bohm or Schwarber over there against lefties, whatever Topper decides to do, it at least helps the defense on the diamond in other areas as well. So for me, it's a 10 in terms of, damn, I really wanted to see this lineup at full strength, but it's more of a 6 for a production level.
Okay, I've got it as a 3, and I'm going to take off my Phillies hat for a moment. Look,
okay.
I'm a fan of this team and have been since something like 1998. Okay, so it's hard for me to remove the emotion, but no one's going to feel sorry for the Phillies. The Atlanta Braves aren't going to give the Phillies a run to start a game because Rhys Hoskins isn't their first baseman. And for as impactful and influential as Rhys Hoskins is in the clubhouse, and we know he carries enormous weight there, and for as much of a calming presence as he provides this team, and inspiration and motivation, like he is all of the things that we love in an athlete in Philadelphia, and by and large, we have embraced him. The fact of the matter is Rhys Hoskins is just a guy. He's played nearly 700 games for the Phillies, and he's produced 11 more. All right, if you're not fluent in that vernacular, that's just not that much value in that much time. Truthfully, Derek Hall is going to be able to hit. He's going to be able to hit, I don't know, something like 80%, as well as Rhys Hoskins. We know Rhys is a butcher in the field. They almost had to pull him off the diamond last year in the playoffs because he forgot how to catch the baseball. He's not going to be able to run the bases with any effectiveness, nor has he ever. This lineup is good enough now that they can absorb this injury in a way that they've never been able to in the past. I love the guy. I met him a couple years ago when he was doing an ESPN tour. Could not have been nicer. Could not have been more accommodating. Could not have been kinder. And he's one of the genuinely great athletes that we've seen in the last 10 or 15 years in this city, not just in terms of the production, but what he represents. But ultimately, I don't see a scenario in which this is the difference between the Phillies doing something and not doing something. And for that reason, I'm going to say 3. The second question I have for you, the second defining question of the Phillies season is this. Bryce Harper, we know, was not placed on the 60-day injured list because it seems they think there's a real chance he comes back sometime at the end of May or before the end of May. So here's my question. He had 18 homers last year across 99 games. I'm putting the over-under right there at 18. Will Bryce hit more or less than 18 home runs this season? It's a tough question, of course, because you're projecting not only how much power he's going to hit for, but how many games he's going to play.
I'm going with the over on this one, man. I'm not trying to get my hopes up, but I answer the question with the over because of what you started your question with. The fact that he was not placed on the 60-day injured list. And I like to believe that Dave Dombrowski is a realist, that he's a realistic type of person. He's not doing this off of a whim. He's not doing this off of hope that Bryce is going to be back in that timeline. I think there's something there. He's hitting off a tee every day. He's fielding grounders. He's, he went to the LeBron James school of getting body parts and, coming back and healing quicker than ever. I think there's a reason Bryce was kept off that 60-day injured list. And if throughout the timeline, that puts it around what, May 29th, I believe.
That's the cutoff date.
Right. So we were hearing All-Star break. That's beginning middle July. That's a month and a half almost of baseball that he would miss if that was the realistic target date. To me, I think he comes back much sooner, if not a month sooner, than the initial All-Star break date. I think he ultimately could play more games than he played last year with that broken thumb. I think Bryce Harper hits over 18 home runs.
I agree. I think Bryce hits 20-something bombs. So the Phillies' 56th game of the season is June 1st. If we're going to use that as like an approximate date,
right,
he's in line to play about as many games as he did last year. And if Bryce Harper, let's say, comes back at the beginning of June, to me, he's going to hit 5 home runs a month. I mean, that's all we're really asking from him here. Now, Bryce has become so patient and so disciplined, and he doesn't sell out for power anymore. So he's not really chasing those, gaudy home run totals. But I'll tell you what, parenthetically, Bryce Harper looks jacked. So his elbow obviously was shredded, got repaired, and he's clearly spent this time improving the strength in his lower body because that's what the great ones do. Like, he had the chance to overcompensate there, so he has. I think he's going to come back with a lot of pop because that's where you've seen him swing a million times just like I have. That's where he generates his power. That's where he generates his power. I think he's going to come back and hit for a lot of power. I really do. And without Rhys Hoskins in this lineup, you might see him on occasion sort of grip it and rip it even with 2 strikes in a way that he did not last year. I think he'll hit somewhere between 20 and 25 bombs in something like 100 games. So that's question 2. The third defining question of the Phillies 2023 season is this. Our boy, our new acquisition, Trea Turner. So his career high in stolen bases is 46. We've got bigger bases. We've got a pitch clock. We've got the new rules with the pitcher disengagements. We've got no shift. I'm setting the over-under for Trea Turner stolen bases at 49.5. If we presuppose he's going to play a full season, are you taking the over or the under? 49.5 steals.
I'm going to take the under here. I can't wait to see what Trea does in the leadoff spot in this lineup. I understand the pitch clock, the throw-over limit, the bigger bags, everything you just listed. But 50 still seems like a very high number to me. I know the Phillies are going to be aggressive on the base paths. They were last year. You add him to the top of this order. Why not try to get him in the scoring position? I understand it. But with the pop and the power behind him in Kyle Schwarber, when Bryce returns, those guys, I don't think they're going to be as overly aggressive to potentially risk a run on base for those guys, right? So to me, I have Trea somewhere in the high 30s to mid 40s, maybe 44, 45 stolen bases, which is a shit ton for any Philadelphia Philly that we've seen in recent years. I just don't think he goes over 49 and a half.
50 is a lot. And in order for him to steal 50 bags, this is going to sound weird, but in order for him to steal 50 bags, the lineup behind him is going to be a whole lot worse than we expect. In other words, you often see high stolen base totals from guys that hit at the top of the order on bad teams because bad teams often have to manufacture runs. The Phillies have boppers at the top and middle of their lineup, and you're not going to run into outs like you said. Not to mention the fact that, yes, he has stolen 46 bags in a year before. He was 24 years old. He's going to be leading off for this team. He's going to be their everyday shortstop. He's always been at least more recently, he's been let's steal 30 bags at a really high clip, erring on the side of that, and to do it efficiently. I mean, last year he went 27 to 30. I think he's going to steal 40 bags really efficiently this season. I just think the conversation got a little bit out ahead of its skis when John Smoltz at the WBC said he was going to steal 70. Like he's not going to rip 70.
I didn't see that, so that's funny.
He's not going to rip 70 bags. I'm going to say 40 to 45 like you do at a really efficient clip. He's going to be way above the break-even point, and he's going to steal bags when the Phillies need him to. But you don't want to run him ragged in the first half of the season and wear out those legs. So you and I see things eye to eye so far. My fourth question for you is this. Who is this team's X factor? I would describe or define the X factor as a non-obvious player that will be predictive of success. So you can't give me Nola or Wheeler. You can't give me Bryce or JT or Trea. I don't think you can even give me Sir Anthony. I'm talking about a player who's going to be hitting in the middle, maybe the bottom of the lineup, maybe an ancillary bullpen piece, a third, fourth, or fifth starter, someone that you think is going to disproportionately affect the Philly season in relation to expectation.
I don't have to change my answer for you, man. I mean, Costi is a person that everybody's probably throwing out there. And I don't know if that's your answer or not, but I'm going to go with the middle of this rotation, as you just mentioned. I'm going with Taijuan Walker. I say that because you already have injuries in the back end of this rotation, which means he's going to have to step up from the jump. He's going to have to be your number 3 from the jump right now. Not only that, we saw what fatigue looks like on Nola and Wheeler as they battled through the postseason and made that World Series run. So you don't want Nola leading the league in innings pitched, right? I think you're going to need meaningful outings in meaningful moments and meaningful games from Taijuan Walker this year for the Phillies.
Yeah, you mentioned both players that were on my list here. I mean, Walker, I think, is perhaps the best answer to this question on the pitching side for all the reasons you articulated. But to me, Nick Castellanos is the best answer to this question. I mean, we paid him $20 million last year for 0.0 WAR. We paid him $20 million last year to be a replacement level player. All right. Now, we all know that none of that would have happened if he wasn't living in Ben Simmons' house. That aside, this is a player with a track record of high level hitting, a player who, when the Phillies signed him last year, I was thrilled because over the previous 4 seasons, he had an OPS plus of 126. From the date that he was traded to the Cubs through the end of the 2021 season, nobody in the National League had more extra base hits than he did. The fact that he disappeared last year, the way that he disappeared last year, was one of the great mysteries of the Phillies season. And had they not enjoyed the postseason success that they did, he might have gotten ridden out of town already. Yeah. So I think he has an enormous amount on his plate, and especially exacerbated by the Rhys Hoskins injury. I think Taijuan Walker is a great answer to that question. For me, the best answer is Nick Castellanos. All right, the fifth defining question of the Phillies 2023 season is this. Who's going to take the biggest leap forward? You can define this however you want to. You might say Bryce Harper is going to hit 80 bombs, right?
Yeah.
In relation to what they did last year, who is going to make the biggest improvement upon that baseline this year?
I'm going to go with Bryson Stott to take the biggest leap here. He is such an unknown to me and such an unknown in this lineup. But if you just go back a year's time to last year, opening day under Joe Girardi, this kid was your opening day starting third baseman. Didi Gregorius was playing shortstop just to his left, right? He was in and out of the lineup under Joe until Thompson was promoted. I think having a full offseason, getting those postseason reps that he got last year, you can go back to the, was it the Spencer Strider at bat, I believe, in game 3. You and I were both there, right? We saw how he was able to work a count and come up with big hits and big moments. And I think being moved to second base next to Trea is also big. He's more comfortable there. I think Bryson Stott takes a leap in terms of production this year.
So for all your listeners, for all your viewers, we did not exchange notes in advance.
Oh boy.
But great minds do think alike. Too bad I'm an idiot. My answer to this question is also Bryson Stott. So look, I was very late on the Bryson Stott train, and I'm admittedly not even all the way there yet.
Me neither.
However, I mean, it was just obvious to me, like, you're not ready yet. Like, you're not ready yet to hit big league pitching. Like, this is a level one rung beyond where you're prepared to handle. Like, he just couldn't handle premium velocity. He was too weak. Like, I'll just say it. Bryson Stott was too weak when he started last year. And he remained so for a while. But I ran the numbers yesterday. He was pretty much a league average hitter over the last 2 months of the regular season. His playoff slash line was pretty ugly, but we can obviously remember individual isolated at bats that really swung games for the Phillies, which does matter, of course.
Right. At that age specifically.
There are two things that he does great. And this is why I'm sort of basing my reputation on this player improving. One, he doesn't swing and miss. Like, he has a premium hand-eye bat-to-ball ability, which is something that's just always going to play in baseball so long as they're doing playing baseball this way. Like, if you can get bat-to-ball, which he can, and if you swing and miss as infrequently as he can, even if you're not driving the baseball, you can make enough contact to be a reasonably good hitter. He can do that. The second thing he can do is run like the wind. Like, his StatCast metrics in terms of sprint speed and the way he can run the bases, better than I would have expected and better than I remembered, frankly. What you're looking at here is a player, I think, who's going to add value as a base runner, as I just articulated, because he can run. He's going to add value at second base as a defender because he can play short of the big league level, at least fake it. So we can definitely play second, I think, at an average to plus level. And because his batting eye is so good, and because he swings and misses so infrequently, I don't think it's going to be a terribly empty slash line, even if he does only slug, say, 400. That's a 2 or 3 WAR player. You need those kind of value positive players at the bottom of your lineup if you're going to be a championship hitters. Yeah. And there's a track record from the time he was at UNLV. Like, he's hit everywhere he's been, reasonably speaking. I don't see. I think a lot of people could naturally say, yeah, this might be Scott Kingery. I don't see it because Scott Kingery, even though he didn't have any juice in his barrel, had to sell out to be able to drive the baseball in a way that Bryson Stott doesn't. And that's, to me, the biggest difference between the two. Kingery had one speed and one speed only, and he couldn't adjust. Bryson Stott has more tools in his bag, and thus I think he's going to be a pretty significant improver this year. All right, question number 6. The 6th defining question of the Phillies 2023 season. Who's going to take the biggest step back? I mean, we look, this is a 162-game season. Right now, hope springs eternal. We all think everyone's going to do, play to the back of their baseball card and then some. That's not how baseball works. There's going to be some regression to the mean. Which player is going to regress to the mean more than any other?
It pains me to say this one, man, and I'm interested to see where you go. And I pray that I'm wrong, but I'm going with Kyle Schwarber. I believe we still see plenty of Schwarbombs, and he is without a doubt one of the biggest leaders in this clubhouse. But I think we see it. You're going to see a dip in the home run total. That's just a fact. He's not going to hit 46 home runs again. He's going to see less at bats. He's going to see less pitches, not leading all for this ball club. He hit 218 last year. Like, that's forgotten because of the pop, because of the home run numbers, right? I know the band of the shift could help a little with average and maybe some of those line drives and those ground balls hit to the right side of the infield squeak through this year. But to me, he's not going to hit for 46 home runs. Hell, I don't know if he hits for 40. It's an astronomical number. And if the average stays maybe not as low as 218, but if that average is under 230, 235, that's a production drop off from last year for Kyle Schwarber. So he's my guy to step back.
I agree. He's number 1 on my list too. I'm serious. And I have the numbers to back it up like you do. So you mentioned the average was 218. The on base was 323, and the slug was 504. If you're just going to evaluate each of the 3 components of his triple slash line, none of them are elite. I mean, obviously the slug is good. A 504 slug is good, but a 504 slug isn't top of the food chain good. I mean, he ran into 46 home runs last year, and he is an incredibly challenging, scary at bat in the postseason. But Kyle Schwarber didn't have a great year last year. He had a good year, and he accompanied that good year with 46 home runs. His strikeout to walk rate was 200 to 86. I totally agree with you. If he's going to sell out for power the same way that he did last year, he needs 40 bombs to justify that slash line.
Yeah.
What I think Kyle Schwarber needs to do, if he's not already, and I've not seen local interviews in which he's talked about this, so apologize if I've missed something. But Kyle Schwarber needs to modify his 2-strike approach. I don't need him to do anything differently until he reaches 2 strikes. But Kyle Schwarber is not going to hit 20 bombs in 2 strike counts this year. And I don't want him striking out 200 times when you can't load right field with your third baseman. And Kyle Schwarber's StatCast metrics, his quality of contact is off the charts. Absurd. Some of the very best in baseball. He meets the ball out in front as well as any hitter in the sport. Kyle Schwarber can raise his average to 250 if he's willing to see his home run total dip to 30 or 35, and you'll see all 3 components of his triple slash line improve. I think all or nothing players are super valuable in baseball. But if you're going to be an all or nothing player, you're going to have to catch the all as often as he did last year. And there's no obvious reason to believe, based upon his experience or just common sense, that is likely to happen. So you and I have the same answer for both of those, the biggest leap forward and the biggest leap back. My 7th question for you is this, the 7th defining question of the Phillies season. Will Andrew Painter's 2023 contributions amount to A, a lot, B, a little, or C, none at all?
I don't want to be overly pessimistic and go with C, so I'm going to ride with B, and I'm going to say a little here for Painter. He's so young and already has this injury concern coming out of spring training. I think he gets enough work in this year, knock on wood that the injury isn't anything serious that some fans are kind of thinking about. But my early gut says Falter will still get work in that 5-hole. They'll alternate on and off. I think management is very hesitant to give him a lot of innings. I think his innings will be limited to this year. I think you get a couple moments where that flash, that shine comes out, a game here or there. But I'm going to say a little for Andrew Painter's production this year.
Yeah, to me, a lot is almost not on the list of options. And the answer is likelier. I'll put it this way. The answer is likelier to be none than a lot. Yeah, I happen to agree with you that a little, some variation of a little is the likeliest outcome here, because not only are the Phillies going to treat him with kid gloves. I mean, he's a 19-year-old stud who, in my opinion, is one of the 5 best pitchers on the planet that has yet to pitch in the big leagues. I mean, he is a precocious stud. I mean, his stuff and his command at his age is completely unprecedented. You don't even need context for these numbers. He pitched at 3 levels last year at 19 years old. All right. He's still wetting the bed. 155 strikeouts, 25 walks with a 1.56. Not 1 level, not 2 levels, 3 levels. I mean, Andrew Painter, his stuff, his command is an unprecedented combination for a pitcher his age. Scott Boras is also his agent. All right. And Scott Boras, as we well know, mangled that Steven Strasburg situation from day one, even though it wound up getting him paid eventually. They didn't have the team first. That being said, what the Phillies are going to wind up doing if Andrew Painter can come off the injured list at some point in the summer, mid to late summer, whatever, effectively use him as an opener. And if they're able to do that, and by the time that the Phillies are playing meaningful games at the end of the season, he can get you 6, 9, 12 outs at the start of a game, that's where you want him. That's the sweet spot for him. And I could see the Phillies in the playoffs, Lord willing, when we get there, pairing Painter and Suarez with this kind of ridiculous. Let's almost use let's stack 2 openers, in sort of a premeditated way, and shave through their lineup a couple times before we hand the ball to Gregory Soto, who will then blow the game. Okay, so number 8.
Come on, man.
Number 8. I'm from Philadelphia. I have to pretend like every once in a while something might go wrong.
Yeah.
Rank the Phillies units. I'm going to call them units. Rank the Phillies units 1 through 4. Offense, defense, rotation, bullpen.
1, you have to go offense. I think that is clear and obvious to me. It was their biggest strength last season, and you added Trea Turner. Now, albeit, yes, you are without Rhys Hoskins for the year. You're starting the year without Bryce Harper. The lineup's still deadly. The lineup's still going to produce at a ridiculous amount, and Bryce will be back sooner than later. 2, I'll go with their rotation. But 2 and 3 are very close to me, which is kind of crazy if you think about recency bias here. Assuming Nola and Wheeler are still a top duo, followed by 2 guys in Ranger and Walker who should, hopefully, knock on wood, have sub-4 ERAs this year. With the upside of a young kid coming back from injury like Andrew Painter, you have Bailey Falter, who's pitched at this level now for a couple of seasons. That's why I have them at 2. 3, which, like I said, is close to being second, is the bullpen. An addition of Gregory Soto, who I know you just had to get in your Negadelphia there, but Gregory Soto coming in with his stuff. Craig Kimbrell, yes, I get it. He is not the Craig Kimbrell of 3-4 years ago. If you can kind of get him in a solidified role, whether that be closer, setup, whatever the case is, Strahm, once he comes out of that starting kind of role, once they get healthier, and you add that to Sir Anthony and Alvarado, who you extended. This should be a top 10, 12 bullpen in the majors, right? And then at number 4, you go with defense. It's obviously improved when you add Trea Turner at short. It is improved. Bryson Stott goes back to second. You have Brandon Marsh still from last year in center, and also having the best catcher in baseball helps. You still have issues in the corner of your infield in Alec Boehm and Derek Hall, whatever combination you have. Outfield, Castellanos, if Schwarber's split, you have issues in the corners, right? So to me, defense is 4th.
I have the same order as you do, but I'm much less optimistic about the bullpen. There's no question. So just as an overview, as a recap, the lineup should rake. Mm-hmm. That we know. Barring significant injury, the Phillies starting rotation should easily be among the 5 or 10 best in the sport. The Phillies defense, which I have 4th, to me only has value positive players behind the plate, at second base, and in center field. Those are the only places where they're obviously above average defensively. Luckily, defense and bullpen are in these 4 things, the collection of things, the ones that matter the least. I want to push back a little bit on the bullpen.
Okay.
I have heard a lot of similar refrains about how optimistic we should be about this bullpen and how it's the best one since 2011. And I hope to God you're right.
Right.
But as I look at this bullpen, what I see are a lot of question marks. All right. I just to be totally honest, like I could see this bullpen being surprisingly bad based upon the amount of positive press, if you will, they've received this spring. Sir Anthony's stuff is diabolical, but he's pitched very little, and we've not seen him be able to do it through a full season yet at all. Jose Alvarado last year was a revelation, but we know the command is never going to be even average. And he is more than prone to have a blow-up game or two, or even go through extended periods of time when he's struggling with his delivery. That we know. Craig Kimbrell has never repeated the same release point twice in his life. And Gregory Soto loves walking people. So, like, Gregory Soto rarely has a clean appearance.
Okay.
Rarely. So, and look, in the sort of the back half of the bullpen, if you will, are guys that you'll rotate through and pitch in low leverage situations. We're going to focus on those 4 guys. I could see a scenario in which all 4 of those guys hit. I think it is just as likely that the Phillies are dealing with significant bullpen issues and Dombrowski needs to dip into the well at the trade deadline in July. Luckily, that's the easiest thing to find. But it's not obvious to me that the Phillies bullpen is going to be so great. Like they might get a lot of outs and they might be really effective. But based upon track records here, I think they're going to give us a lot of heartburn because they're going to walk a lot of people. They might be effective, and look, the way that they improved Alvarado's command and his mechanics last year was something that we can maybe take from and say,
oh yeah,
they can do this with other people. Like if their player dev people have gotten a lot better over the years, that's clear and obvious. And so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they see a sort of a blank canvas in Soto's case, and they see an opportunity for a reclamation project with Craig Kimbrell. But getting high leverage outs in a really tough division is going to be an enormous attribute. And based upon what I see right now, to me, this is an average unit. All right, 2 more questions for you. 2 more defining questions of the Phillies season. If they miss the playoffs, what will be the single biggest reason why?
Health. Bottom line.
Where specifically?
What?
Where specifically?
Something major, whether that be at the top of the rotation with Nola or Wheeler, or it would have to be Bryce or Trea to me. Like Bryce, Trea, or JT, I'll say one of the main 3 in the lineup, one of the leaders, and then one of the top 2 rotation pieces in Nola and Wheeler. This team is far too talented. I'll take their lineup with Bryce back against almost any other lineup in the league. They have a top 1-2 punch in those 2 guys in Nola and Wheeler, as I laid out. And to your point with the hesitancy, still an improved bullpen probably of what they had last year. They finally have stable leadership between players and manager, one that they trust, right? The only way this thing derails is injuries, in my opinion. And I'm confident in what Dombrowski has built.
Yeah. To me, the 2 most important people on this team are Nola and Wheeler. Okay. The Phillies, I think, can absorb 1 or 2 substantial injuries to position players or even potentially to relievers. But last year, Nola and Wheeler combined for 11 WAR. They were a huge part of their postseason success as well. And Zach Wheeler would have produced even more if he weren't hurt and sort of nursing an injury for much of last season. I'm confident that Zach is going to be great so long as he's healthy. He has been for the last 3 years. Aaron Nola has these sort of weird, uneven seasons sometimes where you look and you say, like, you have 7 times more strikeouts than walks. How is your ERA 4.6, right? In part, that's because the Phillies have had bad defenses behind him. But if either of them are unexpectedly ineffective, or either of them or both of them, God forbid, get hurt, to me, I could look back at the end of the season and say that was the single reason why this team didn't meet expectations. Number 10,
Right.
10th and final question, the defining question of the Phillies season. I'm going to ask you to crystal ball it. So I had to send in my picks to ESPN.com. What I need from you is an exact win total and a playoff prediction. How does the season end?
So I think the Phillies get to 90. I'll go a few games above. I will go with 92 wins for the Philadelphia Phillies this year. I think they're over under set at 89.5. I could be off there, but I think they hit the over. I'll go with 92 on the dot if I had to give you an exact measurement. I don't think they win the division simply because I think the Mets or the Braves go over 100. But as we saw last year, man, it doesn't matter where you finish in the regular season. Just get invited to the dance. If you get in the dance, you have a chance, right? And again, I think this Phillies team will be a wild card, a higher wild card. They will not be the third wild card sneaking in at the end of the year again. They will be a wild card team that nobody wants to see yet again this season with that lineup and that pitching staff. Right now, on March 29th, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm not one of those fans that they're getting back. I know how hard the road is. You're already missing Reese. I know Bryce is out. But I will, when it comes time, take this Phillies team healthy up against any other team in the National League. I get the Padres. I get the Braves. I'll take them against any team in the National League, man.
I mean, I'm dying for another Bedlam at the Bank moment.
I know.
What I have is 91. I got 91 and 71. Okay. That was before the Reese injury. I'm going to stick with it because I don't think it's going to make an enormous difference. That's sort of – I see this team teetering around 90. Like, they're going to play at that kind of pace this year. Again, barring unexpected circumstances or health, which you're presupposing when you're doing conversations like these for any team. I see it the same way that you do insofar as predicting playoff series in baseball is a fool's errand because it's a 162-game season that you're now distilling into a best of 3 or best of 5 or best of 7. The Phillies do, however, have, like, for as much as you can't predict this, a formula that works in a microwave format because you have the top-end talent that can swing games for you with the anchors at the top of your rotation, right? So that's why I think the Phillies will reach the NLDS this year. Beyond that, we're just throwing darts.
Yeah, you don't know.
I think you'd agree with me. In 2008, when the Phillies won the championship, that was their 4th best team between 08 and 11. That was their 4th best team. The Phillies could have a way better team this year and lose in the first round of the playoffs to Milwaukee or some such nonsense. Not to mention the fact that I think Atlanta is great. I don't think Atlanta is good. I think Atlanta is great. I think the Mets have more good players that are going to contribute to their regular season success than the Phillies. I think the Phillies are better equipped to win postseason games than maybe either of those two teams. But the Phillies are going to finish 3rd in the National League East this year. And if you're talking about, like, if you're living in that world, look, you take what you can get. This team has that muscle memory now. But we saw in 09 and 10 and 11, that didn't make any bit of difference. So that's why you have to enjoy the experience in the postseason while you have it. But I think this team is not a virtual cinch or lock to make the playoffs, but I'd be really surprised and really disappointed if they don't.
I agree with you, man. And it's so easy for fans to sit here and say, well, they made the World Series last year and they added Trea Turner and they added this, so they have to get back. I mean, it just doesn't work that way, right? I mean, look what the San Diego Padres added. And I know Tatis is out to start the year, but they're going to be filthy. The Braves are filthy. The Dodgers are the Dodgers. But again, like I said, just get in the dance. And I think, I would venture to say that you really don't. What percentage would you put on it that the Phillies can win the division, percentage-wise?
10%.
10%. So you don't see really a chance at all. I don't see a high percentage chance at all, but they're at least in the conversation. And to me, if they're in the conversation to win probably the best division in baseball right now, at least top-heavy division, those 3 teams, they're going to make the playoffs as well. So you just get in the dance. Anything can happen, my man. But we are less than 24 hours away from first pitch. Of course, we get to see Jacob deGrom again. So that'll be fun.
I'm looking forward to watching him be removed in the 3rd inning with a rib impingement or something.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Jacob deGrom's Texas Rangers debut, he's either going to throw like a no-hitter with 91 pitches, are they going to take him off the field after the third inning? He felt a tweak in his right shoulder.
Yeah.
There's nothing between.
Set it up for me. Set it up. First series, or even just first game tomorrow. Do the Phillies come away with a win? Do they start the season on a positive note?
Now the Phillies are gonna hunt 101 mile per hour Jacob deGrom fastballs at the knees tomorrow. I like their chances tomorrow. So long as Gabe Kapler does not remove Aaron Nola in the fifth inning after he threw 65 pitches in a shutout, then the Phillies are going to beat the Texas Rangers tomorrow at Globe Life. This is going to be a fun season. It's a fun way to start the season too in Texas. I mean, it's atypical, obviously, but we get Sunday night baseball, which would be cool. So a lot of national exposure off the jump. This team's interesting and fun. Like, that's the thing now about the Phillies. They're nationally relevant in a way they've not been since they were good 10, 12, 15 years ago. And that counts for something too. I mean, just in terms of your fan enjoyment and the experience in following your team, there's not going to be the kind of like national bias. There shouldn't be any of the look at us guys stuff. Like, this is a highly competitive, interesting division, and the Phillies have compelling characters for, I think, the national media and casual fans to follow.
All right, Hembo, right before we let you off, for the people that weren't in here, that at the beginning of the show that are now, you just wrote a book with Mike Greenberg, my man. What's it about, and where can they find it?
It's called Got Your Number. What we have done is assigned every number from 1 to 100 to an athlete, to a coach, to a to a team, to a record, whatever the case may be. There are 100 chapters, 100 essays that Greeny wrote that I painstakingly researched. It's called Got Your Number. It's out on April 4th, which is next Tuesday, and you can buy it anywhere that you get books. I can tell you for sure that if you're a sports fan, and you likely are if you're watching this, for God's sakes, you're going to learn a lot, or at least learn something. I did a Zoom last night with Ryan Clark and Greeny and Chris Mad Dog Russo on Talk Shop Live. Mad Dog Russo knows more about sports than anybody that I know. And we were rattling off stuff about these athletes, like from the 70s, like when he grew up, that he didn't know. So I'm 100% certain that if you're watching right now, you'll learn a whole heck of a lot. And if you're a Philly fan, which you likely are too, Philadelphia is well represented in our book. I made sure that would be the case.
Love it, my man. Guys, don't forget to check him out on Twitter, at Paul Hembo. Go buy the book. I'm going to buy it, and I haven't read in 18 years. With that being said, that is going to wrap up this edition of the Phaithful Phanatics Show. Guys, don't forget to check us out on Twitter at DSM_media. Hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. For myself, for DSM, and for my man Hembo, we'll be talking to you another time. Have a great rest of your night.